You know, I used to believe that when two people love each other, they just naturally meet in the middle. You give, you take. You support, you're supported. And yeah, sometimes one gives more than the other, but it balances out because there's respect. There's reciprocity. That's what I thought marriage was supposed to be. And for a while it was. Camila and I were together for 6 years, married for 4. I met her during a conference in Sao Paulo. I was giving a talk on real estate investing, and she worked in digital marketing for a beauty brand. Confident, sharp, knew how to hold a room without raising her voice. I liked that about her. She wasn't clingy. She had her own thing going on. We clicked fast. In the beginning, everything felt easy. We were building something together. We had dreams, plans. I handled the finances, and she was totally fine with that. Actually, she seemed relieved. She'd tell her friends, "Eduardo's the kind of man who takes care of everything. I don't have to worry about anything." And that was true. I paid the mortgage, covered her car note, took her on trips twice a year. Whenever her parents needed help, I never hesitated. Whether it was dinner out, subscriptions, shopping, new tech, whatever she wanted, I handled it. I didn't throw it in her face. I wasn't the type to say, "Look how much I do for you." I did it because I wanted to. I did it because I thought we were a team. But over time, something in her changed. It didn't happen all at once. It was subtle, like a temperature drop you don't notice until you're shivering. She became distant, emotionally and physically. Conversations turned transactional. Intimacy went from being a shared moment to a scheduled task, one she kept canceling. I'd reach for her in bed, and she'd roll over. I'd try to kiss her neck while she cooked, and she'd flinch, saying she was tired or stressed, or not in the mood for that right now. I get it. Life gets heavy sometimes. We're not always in a mood. But this wasn't a day or a week. It was months. So I brought it up. I remember it clearly. We were in the living room. I had just finished cleaning the kitchen after dinner. I sat down beside her and gently said, "Camila, we haven't really been close in a while. Is everything okay between us?" She didn't even look up from her phone. Intimacy only when I want, Eduardo. I don't exist to satisfy you. I blinked, just sat there stunned. It wasn't the words that cut, it was the tone. Cold, flat, as if I had just asked something offensive. As if wanting to connect with my wife made me some sort of entitled creep. "I wasn't demanding anything," I said quietly. "I just want us to feel like partners again." She stood up and walked off like the conversation was over. No dialogue, no willingness to unpack it. Just that sharp line, "Only when I want." That was the moment something shifted inside me. You know when you reach your limit, not with anger, but with clarity? That was it. Here's the woman I've been providing everything for. A roof over her head, comfort, safety, options. She doesn't work anymore. Said she wanted to reset and focus on herself. I didn't argue. I supported it. Fully. But now that same woman tells me connection, even basic affection, is hers to give or withhold like a prize. And what do I get in return? Silence. Indifference. Occasionally, sarcasm. But the expenses? Oh, those are flowing just fine. Hair appointments. Designer bags. Monthly deliveries from boutique stores. Spa days. Brunches with her friends at overpriced restaurants. She had no problem spending. But when it came to emotional or physical presence, suddenly everything had a lock on it. I started noticing how transactional our relationship had become. She'd be sweet for a day or two when she wanted something. A new phone, a girl's weekend, upgrades to the kitchen appliances. And then the frost would return. I wasn't her partner anymore. I was her provider, her sponsor, her bank. And don't get me wrong, I'm not the type to say, if I pay, I'm owed intimacy. That's not how I think. But relationships are built on connection, on effort, on mutual care. And I was getting none of that. So I stopped talking about it. I stopped trying to initiate anything. I went quiet, and I paid attention. Every time she bought something new, every time she posted stories in cafes or spas or yoga retreats, every time she casually dropped a request in a conversation like I was her employee, I filed it all away. That's when I started planning. Not to retaliate, but to reclaim my dignity. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to yell or guilt trip her. I was going to do exactly what she did exercise my autonomy. If intimacy only happens when she wants, then financial support would happen when I want. No fight, no announcement, just action. I scheduled a meeting with my bank, separated my accounts, revoked her access to my credit cards, left the essentials, rent, utilities, basics covered. I'm not heartless, but the perks, the bonuses, all paused. I didn't tell her right away. I waited for her to feel the absence the way I had been feeling it for months. She noticed 2 days later. We were getting ready for bed, and she held up her phone. Why is the joint card declining? I looked up from my book. Calm. Cool. Maybe it's because intimacy only happens when you feel like it. Figured we could apply that logic to everything now. She blinked, caught completely off guard. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm done providing everything while receiving nothing. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. I'm your wife. Exactly. And I was your husband. A partner, not an ATM. That's when it began to dawn on her. I wasn't bluffing. I had stopped begging for affection. Now, I was letting the silence speak for itself. And it was only the beginning. Most men don't just shut down one day out of nowhere. We adapt in silence for longer than we should. And when we finally stop showing up, it's not because we're cold. It's because we've been running on empty and nobody noticed. That's where I was with Bianca. After months of being treated like I was on standby, emotionally, physically, even conversationally, I stopped expecting connection. I stopped hoping. And the night she stood there, arms crossed, looked me in the eye and said, "Intimacy only when I want," something clicked inside me. Not a spite, not even disappointment anymore. It was something colder, detachment. I nodded, didn't argue, didn't yell. I just said, okay. That was all. And I meant it. From that moment forward, I decided if affection was going to be conditional, then support would be too. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was just tired of being the only one maintaining the engine of a relationship she kept parking in the garage. Bianca had grown used to a very comfortable life. And I get it, I helped create that. I've always believed that if you can provide, you should. But what nobody tells you is that the moment you become the sole provider, some people stop contributing anything else. And they call it balance. She had full access to our shared credit card. It covered everything from groceries to her high-end skincare orders, spontaneous Amazon purchases, and her luxury Pilates studio that cost more than some people's rent. I never questioned it until she began acting like our relationship was a subscription service where I paid, and she delivered whatever energy she felt like. Maybe. So I made a plan. Quietly. No scenes. No lectures. I opened a private checking account under my name only. Moved the majority of my income there. I left the basics running, rent, electricity, insurance, because I'm not a child. But the discretionary spending, the monthly fund budget, that got cut. Then I called the bank and requested to remove her from the shared card. I replaced it with a reloadable card with a small, fixed amount. No warning, no confrontation, just a shift, the same way she shifted her affection. 3 days later, she noticed. She was trying to order a skincare bundle online. I was on the couch reading when she called from the kitchen. "Leo, did you cancel a card?" I looked up casually. "No, I changed it." "What does that mean?" "It means the rules have changed." She blinked, tilted her head. "What rules?" I set my book down, leaned forward calmly. "If connection in our relationship is going to happen only when you want it, then so will everything else." She narrowed her eyes. "Are you punishing me?" I shook my head. "No, I'm mirroring you." See, Bianca wasn't used to me setting boundaries. She was used to unlimited grace. I'd always been the one to apologize first, to keep the peace, to let things slide. But this time, I wasn't trying to win her over. I was trying to win myself back. She tried to laugh it off at first. "You're serious? You're putting me on an allowance like a teenager?" I didn't flinch. "No, I'm setting limits in the same way you did. When you told me intimacy was on your terms, you created a new standard. I'm just applying it to everything." She scoffed and walked off. But over the next week, she started to feel the difference. The online orders stopped arriving. Her favorite hair salon called about her canceled appointment. Even her gym emailed a failed payment notification. The silence in the house grew heavier. She wasn't used to not getting what she wanted when she wanted. And what surprised me was how fast her composure started to crack. Not because she missed me, but because she missed the benefits. One night, she sat across from me at dinner, a meal I cooked, and said, "You're really going to keep doing this?" I looked up from my plate. Doing what? This little lesson. Freezing the account. Making me feel small. I set my fork down. "Bianca, I never made you feel small. But I won't keep making myself feel invisible while funding your lifestyle." She went quiet. And for once, she didn't have a snarky comeback. It hit her. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a boundary. And that's when she tried a new tactic, kindness. Or what looked like it. She started sitting closer on the couch. Asked about my day. Made small talk. Even leaned in for a kiss one morning before I left for work. Something she hadn't done in nearly 6 months. But I could feel it wasn't genuine. It was strategic. She was trying to play nice, so she could go back to spending freely. I kept calm. Didn't reject her, but didn't chase it either. She tried being intimate a few days later. I said I wasn't in the mood. She froze. "You're turning me down?" I nodded. "I guess I'm not feeling it." Sound familiar? Her face turned red. Not because of rejection, but because she realized I was serious. The energy had shifted. I wasn't angry. I wasn't yelling. I was just unplugged. And when a man emotionally checks out, it shows. She started pacing around the house more. Cooking, cleaning, offering to go grocery shopping. Things she hadn't done in months. But it was too late. Because once you've pushed someone away for so long, their return isn't always available, no matter how hard you knock. And that's the part she didn't understand. She thought withholding affection was a power move. She didn't realize I had the power to walk away completely. And I already had one foot out the door. She thought it was just about the money, but what she never realized is that I had already stopped loving her. You know what's crazy? For a long time, I thought the worst kind of pain came from betrayal, the kind you read about in those messy stories where someone cheats or disappears. But I've come to learn that there's a pain much quieter than that. The kind where someone stays in your life, but slowly stops seeing you, stops choosing you. That was Jessica. I wasn't her punching bag. I wasn't being cheated on. She didn't leave. But every day, she stopped loving me, a little at a time. And I felt it. Not all at once. It came in waves. The eye rolls when I try to talk about my day. The avoidance when I reach for her. The subtle rejection wrapped in sarcasm. She had this way of making me feel like I was asking for too much when all I wanted was connection. Affection? Only when she wanted. Conversations? If it wasn't about her, she'd zone out. Gratitude? Forget it. I could spend the whole day fixing things around the house or booking her salon appointments and get nothing more than a flat. Okay. And yet, the spending never stopped. New outfits, brunches with her friends, home decor she'd throw away after 2 weeks. Nails done every 10 days. I was funding her lifestyle while getting treated like a stranger sleeping on the other side of the bed. So yeah, I froze the account. But here's what she never understood. It was never just about the money. It was about the emotional bill I'd been footing for years, the one she never paid a cent toward. After I cut off her access to the non-essentials, I expected anger. Maybe a confrontation. But that didn't come right away. She acted surprised at first. Confused. Then annoyed. Then suspicious. "Are you trying to control me?" she asked one afternoon. Arms folded, tone already rising. I shook my head. "No, I'm trying to stop enabling you." That didn't go over well. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. She started slamming cabinets. Walking around the apartment like she was hunting for a fight. But I didn't give her one. I stayed calm. Steady. Still cooked. Still cleaned up after myself. Still kept the basics paid for. But emotionally, I was done investing. And that's when it hit her. The shift wasn't about power. It was about me stepping back from a version of myself I no longer recognized. She started trying again. At least, that's what it looked like. Little gestures. Sitting closer on the couch. Laughing at my jokes. Asking how my meetings went. She even made dinner one night. Something I hadn't seen her do in almost a year. But it didn't feel sincere. It felt like strategy. Like she was trying to re-qualify for the perks of a relationship she'd abandoned long ago. I remember standing in the kitchen, watching her stir pasta while humming to herself. And I realized I didn't feel anything. Not anger. Not relief. Not love, just emptiness. And I think that scared me more than anything she'd ever said. Because when a man no longer feels disappointment, it's because he no longer has expectations. And that's where I was. A few days later, she brought up the money. "Are you going to turn the car back on?" she asked, gently, while placing her wine glass on the table like it was a peace offering. I looked at her, long and slow. "Why would I?" She blinked. "Because this isn't sustainable. I can't keep asking for everything." I nodded. "Exactly." Her brows furrowed. "I don't understand. You shouldn't have to ask, Jessica. Just like I shouldn't have had to beg for your attention." We stopped being a couple the moment this became transactional. She opened her mouth to reply, but had no words. And in that silence, I finally felt heard. Not because she agreed, but because she couldn't deny it anymore. That same night, I took a walk through our neighborhood. The streets were quiet. The air smelled like jasmine from someone's garden. And I realized how long it had been since I took time just to breathe, to reflect, to feel. I wasn't just letting go of Jessica. I was letting go of the version of myself that had clung to her approval for years. I started making small moves after that, looking at new places to live, separating personal belongings, preparing the emotional runway for a clean exit. Not because I wanted her to suffer, but because I didn't want to wake up 5 years from now, still stuck in a relationship that felt more like a subscription I couldn't cancel. She began to panic. I saw it in her eyes, in the way she started hovering more, asking strange questions. "Do you still love me? Are you seeing someone? Are you planning something?" I never lied. I just smiled politely and said, "I'm planning peace." That's what I was chasing. Not revenge, not chaos, just peace. A month after the account freeze, I told her I was leaving. No big speech, no dramatic goodbye, just honesty. This relationship has become one-sided. I've begged for love while you budgeted it out like some rare commodity. And now I'm done. She cried, begged, said she could change. But I didn't respond with sarcasm or venom. I just said I already did, and I walked out. Now, I live in a smaller place. Nothing fancy, just clean walls, a good couch, quiet mornings, and no more emotional overdrafts. I make my own coffee, fold my own laundry, and smile, not because everything is perfect, but because I'm no longer settling for less than I give. Jessica still messages sometimes, sends photos from our trips, memories, little voice notes that say things like "remember this day" or "I miss you." But I don't reply, because she doesn't miss me. She misses who I was when I still needed her approval. And now I know better. I don't chase people who make love conditional. I don't fund lifestyles built on emotional absence. And most of all, I don't stay where I'm tolerated just because I once hoped for change. In the end, she thought she was teaching me patience. But I was teaching her what absence sounds like when a man who gave everything finally walks away. And that silence? That's the sound of her learning what enough really looks like once it's gone. I met Bianca at a friend's engagement party. She was standing near the bar, sipping water with lime, while everyone else was already 2 glasses into the night. What stood out wasn't her dress or the way her hair framed her face. It was how still she was. Calm, observant, like she didn't need attention to feel like she belonged. I like people like that. People who don't perform. We talked that night. Nothing dramatic. She asked what I did. I told her I was in logistics, managing operations for a mid-sized distribution company. I asked about her. She was finishing a postgrad in marketing. We talked about music, politics, childhood, and before I left, she slipped me her number without making it a big deal. 6 months later, we were inseparable. We didn't fight over stupid things. We respected each other's space. She admired how focused I was. Said I had that rare calm she didn't see in other guys. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't loud. But I showed up, on time, when it mattered without making noise about it. That's the thing. Most women say they want stability, but when they get it, some of them get bored. They want storms, not structure. They want unpredictability dressed as passion. And when they get consistency, they call it routine. Bianca didn't start that way. For the first 2 years, we were good. She was affectionate, grounded, present. She'd wait up for me after work, sit beside me on the couch just to talk, hug me without a reason. We traveled, built things together. I gave her freedom. She gave me peace. But I started noticing changes around year 3. At first, it was subtle. She stopped hugging me when I got home. Conversations got shorter. Her phone became a second skin. I'd wake up, and she'd already be lost in Instagram, TikTok, whatever it was that day. I'd reach for her and get a lazy nod or a distracted I didn't panic. I don't move out of impulse. I observe. One morning, I asked if she wanted to do something together that weekend. Something simple, just the two of us. She said, without looking at me, "I got plans with the girls." Then added, "Why don't you do something on your own? It's good for us to have space." Sure, I believe in space. I don't believe in distance disguised as space. Then it got worse. The energy changed. Her tone, when she spoke to me, lost softness. She wasn't hostile, just indifferent. And I'll be honest, I wasn't perfect. I worked long hours. I'm quiet by nature. I don't flood phones with sweet messages during the day. But I was loyal. I was present. I did what a man does. I provided, I protected, and I stayed solid. But my presence started feeling invisible to her. She started going out more, always with a few new friends I'd never met. Started dressing up for dinners I wasn't invited to. Started carrying herself like she wasn't part of a couple anymore. So I brought it up, sat her down, looked her in the eyes, and said, "Are we still in this together? Because I feel like you're halfway out the door already." She didn't deny it, didn't even blink. She just shrugged and said something that stuck with me. "Gabriel, maybe it's time for you to move on. I don't want this anymore." That was it. No yelling, no tears, no regret, just a flat dismissal. And you know what? I didn't chase. I didn't get angry or beg or start listing everything I'd done for her over the years. That's not who I am. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and let it sink in. Then I came back and said, "All right, but don't call me later pretending you didn't say that. Don't tell me you were just emotional. You said it, and I'm going to take you seriously." She looked at me like she didn't expect that. Because women like her, they don't expect a man to actually walk when pushed. They expect bargaining, pleading, a desperate attempt to win them back. But I'm not built like that. I'm not a puppy. I'm a man. And when a woman tells me to go, I go. Quietly. Dignified. For real. That night, I slept in the guest room. Didn't even take a pillow from our bed. The next morning, I got up early, hit the gym, then called a guy I knew who handled short-term rentals. Booked myself a furnished apartment for 3 months. I didn't make a scene. I didn't text her from the new place. I let her live her decision. And I started living mine. Those first few nights alone were tough. Not gonna lie. It's not easy going from a home to an empty apartment with 1 towel, 2 plates, and no smell of the woman you once loved. But pain doesn't scare me. I felt worse. And I knew I wasn't going to let this break me. I focused on myself. Work, training, reading, sleeping well, eating right. And eventually, I stopped thinking about her. Stopped wondering what she was doing, who she was with, if she regretted it. Because regret wasn't my business anymore. She made her choice, and I honored it. I wasn't interested in revenge. Not yet. But I knew one thing. I was going to rebuild myself in silence. And if she ever saw me again, she'd see the version of me she never deserved in the first place. And when that happened, that's when the real story would begin. It had been a little over 4 months since I walked out of Bianca's life. In that time, I rebuilt myself in ways I didn't even realize I needed. I was sleeping better, eating cleaner, training consistently. My business was running smoother, too. Funny how peace of mind sharpens your focus. And most importantly, I wasn't bitter. That's what confused most people. I wasn't plotting revenge. I wasn't stalking her socials. I wasn't updating mine to prove anything. I wasn't pretending to be okay. I was actually okay. There's a kind of silence that settles in a man when he no longer needs closure. That's where I was. Grounded. I wasn't dating anyone seriously at first. I kept things light. I wasn't in a rush to replace her. But I wasn't closed off either. I knew my value. I had clarity now. And when you know your worth, you don't chase, you attract. Then came Clara. We met through mutual friends. No drama, no build-up. She wasn't flashy, just calm, present, real. The kind of woman who looks you in the eye when she talks. The kind who doesn't ask what you do for a living in the first 5 minutes because she's too busy getting to know who you actually are. I'll be honest, I didn't see it coming. I wasn't looking for anything serious, but something about her made me want to show up. She wasn't trying to fix me or test me. She didn't play hard to get, but she didn't cling either. She just existed beside me in a way that felt easy. One weekend, we went to a rooftop event. Live music, laid-back crowd, sunset view. The kind of place where no one's trying to be seen. It was the first time I'd brought someone with me publicly, and I didn't even think twice. I felt light. I felt good. Clara was laughing at something I said, head tilted back, that kind of real laughter you don't fake, when I noticed a familiar silhouette near the bar. I didn't freeze. I didn't panic, but I felt it instantly. Bianca. Hair longer. Same stance. Still scanning the room like she owned it, until her eyes landed on me. And then, she froze. I saw it all over her face. Shock. Recognition. Panic. Because the version of me she saw that night wasn't the man she left. I wasn't hunched. I wasn't distant. I wasn't broken. I was standing tall, looking better than ever, with another woman on my arm who clearly wanted to be there. I nodded politely when our eyes met. Nothing extra. No smile. No arrogance. Just acknowledgement, like a stranger you used to know in a different lifetime. Clara noticed the tension, leaned over and said, "Do you know her?" I just replied, "Used to," and that was that. We didn't stay much longer after that. Clara had an early shift the next morning, and I had no interest in turning a peaceful night into a spectacle. But later that evening, my phone lit up. Unknown number at first. And the message came through. "I saw you today." No name. No intro. Just that. I stared at it for a moment, then put the phone down. 15 minutes later. "Gabriel, please, can we talk?" I didn't answer. Next morning, 3 missed calls. 1 voice message. I didn't even open them. It went on for 2 days. Messages growing longer. Sadder. Desperate. I made a mistake. "I miss you." I thought I was doing the right thing, but I didn't know it would hurt this much. The emotional 180 was so intense, it almost felt scripted. But I knew what was really happening. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of me that belonged to her. She missed the attention she didn't have to earn. She missed the safety net she pushed away. She didn't expect me to actually move on, and definitely not to do it well. On the 3rd day, I finally responded. Just 1 line. "You told me to move on." "I did." She replied instantly. "I didn't think you'd actually stop loving me." I sat with that. Let's settle. And then, like clockwork, she called again. This time I picked up. Her voice cracked the second she said my name. "Gabriel, I don't even know where to start." "You already started," I said calmly. "When you looked me in the eyes and told me to walk away." I was angry. I was overwhelmed. "I didn't mean it." "Don't do that." I interrupted. "Don't rewrite it. You said it. You were clear. And I respected you enough to listen." Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, "I saw you with her and I couldn't breathe." I didn't respond. I thought it wouldn't bother me. I thought you'd just fade away. But seeing you like that, laughing, happy, her voice broke. "What exactly do you want, Bianca?" I asked. She hesitated. "I want to fix it. Us." I exhaled. Slowly. Too late. "No," she whispered. "Please, just give me a chance. Let me explain. I don't need an explanation. You told me I wasn't what you wanted anymore. I believed you. I left. You don't get to change the rules because it suddenly hurts now." I heard her breathing pick up. She was crying now, full on. "I know I messed up, but I can't stand seeing you with someone else." I closed my eyes, and that's when I knew she didn't want me back. She just couldn't handle watching me belong to someone else. So I told her the truth. "You don't miss what we had. You miss the version of me who would have dropped everything just because you snapped your fingers." She tried to deny it, but I kept going. "The man you walked away from doesn't exist anymore. He grew up. He let go. He learned to live without needing your permission." More silence. And then I ended it. "I'm not angry, Bianca. I'm not bitter. I just don't need you anymore. That's what freedom looks like." And I hung up. Just like that. Not because I hated her, but because peace is worth protecting, and I wasn't about to trade it for someone who only remembered my value when it was finally out of reach. There's a strange kind of peace that settles in once you realize you don't owe anyone anything anymore. Not even an explanation. That was me. After that last call with Bianca, I didn't slam doors. I didn't scream. I didn't go online and post some cryptic quote about knowing your worth. I just stopped engaging. And that silence? That was my answer. She had asked for space. She wanted out. She told me to move on. And the truth is, at the time, it hurt like hell. I'll never pretend it didn't. But what I never showed her, and what she never expected, was that I was listening. She probably thought I'd hang around in the background. Wait out. Let her find herself, and then come back when she was ready. But I wasn't her contingency plan. I was a man with his own path. And I kept walking. Weeks turned to months. Bianca tried to poke her way back into my life a few times. Soft messages. Hope you're doing well. Saw something today that reminded me of you. Even a couple missed calls late at night, the kind of calls that only come when regret gets louder than pride. But I didn't bite. Not because I was angry, but because I had outgrown the version of myself that needed her validation. My life wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I got back into boxing, cut sugar from my diet. My mornings started earlier. My work got sharper. I even reconnected with some family members I'd been too distracted to call. And of course, Clara was still in the picture, slowly, steadily, without pressure. She didn't try to be my therapist. She didn't rush the relationship. She just showed up. She laughed at my dry jokes, remembered my coffee order, and listened, really listened, when I spoke. And the craziest part? She never once brought up my past, unless I chose to. There was one afternoon, though, when I told Clara the full story, not because she asked, but because I felt she deserved the truth. We were sitting in a small cafe, sun pouring in through the windows, when I said, Bianca didn't break me. She just reminded me I was building a future with someone who didn't want to hold a hammer. Clara nodded, didn't say much, just reached across the table and squeezed my hand. And that small gesture, that hit harder than any apology Bianca ever tried to send. And yet, I'm human. So when I saw Bianca again, in person, it triggered something. It was a Thursday, end of day. I'd stopped by a bookstore to grab a gift for Clara's birthday. Something simple, a poetry collection she mentioned once in passing. I was standing in line when I heard someone say my name softly, like they weren't sure they should. I turned. There she was. Bianca. Different hair. Same eyes. She looked not bad, but tired. That kind of exhaustion that comes from chasing things that never bring peace. She smiled, the kind of forced smile people wear when they're bracing for impact. I nodded. She walked over. Hi, she said, like we were old friends. Hey, I replied. Long pause. I didn't know you came here, she said. I do now and then. Another beat of silence. She glanced at the book in my hand. For someone. Yeah. She nodded again. Her smile faded. You look good, she finally said. Thanks. You seem lighter. I am. She swallowed hard. I could tell she wanted to say more. I could see the build-up behind her eyes, the words forming and dying behind her teeth. But I wasn't going to make it easier. So I just stood there. Then she whispered, Do you ever think about us? I looked her in the eye. Not anymore. And that's when it hit her. Not the fact that I had moved on, but that I had done it without bitterness, without dragging her name, without needing to prove a point. I had done it quietly, powerfully, and completely. She blinked fast, clearly fighting tears. I messed up, she said, voice barely audible. I nodded. I know. And then I stepped forward, past her, paid for the book, and walked out. That was the last time I saw her. No dramatic ending. No confrontation. Just two people crossing paths. One carrying the weight of regret, the other carrying nothing at all. That night, I gave Clara the book. She smiled, surprised I remembered. We had wine, listened to music, and she fell asleep on the couch with her head on my chest. I looked at her, peaceful in her sleep, and I realized something. I didn't win because I found someone else. I won because I found myself. Bianca had told me to move on, thinking she'd always have a way back in. But real men don't wait around hoping to be chosen twice. When we walk away, we don't turn around. We build. We rise. We love again, this time with people who don't make us beg to be seen. And that's the kind of revenge that doesn't need to be shouted. It just lives in silence and success, forever out of reach.